Everything changed in a matter of seconds, literally seconds. One moment, you're out there, cleats in the grass, living out the absolute pinnacle of your childhood dream on a professional football field. You're catching passes, making tackles, feeling like you belong. And then, the next moment, a single, cold, calculated decision by a front office executive in a room upstairs alters the entire trajectory of your life. Welcome to NFL Nexus. I'm glad you're here with us. Today we're diving deep into a new explainer, and we're looking at the absolute most ruthless, unforgiving, and stress-inducing deadline in all of professional sports, the late August 53-man roster cutdown. We are pulling back the curtain on the Indianapolis Colts as they enter their 2026 training camp. And let me tell you, this isn't just a breakdown of X's and O's. This isn't just about who runs the fastest 40-yard dash. This is about pure, unadulterated survival. It's about a ticking clock that threatens to completely crush NFL dreams. Before we really get into the thick of it, if you love deep dive football content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts. And if you really want to support what we do here at NFL Nexus, consider becoming a channel member. Now, let's get into the brutal reality of August.
So who survives the final 53? You know, it seems like such a simple, innocent question on the surface, right? But the reality behind those words is just, it's brutal. When training camp opens in the blazing heat of the summer, 90 men walk through the glass doors of that facility. They all have the exact same horseshoe on their helmet. They all wear the exact same practice jersey. They've all spent hours studying the exact same playbook. But the math is absolute. And honestly, it is terrifying. Because by the end of August, 37 of those grown men will get that dreaded knock on their door. They will be told to hand in their tablets, empty out their lockers, and figure out the rest of their lives. The tension inside the building during these few weeks, it is palpable. You can practically cut it with a knife. For the established big money superstars, training camp is basically just about getting in shape, right? It's about knocking the rust off. But for the players hovering on the bubble, every single rep in 11-on-11 drills, every slightly dropped pass, every single missed tackle in the open field, it is a massive step closer to the abrupt end of their professional career. The margin for error is literally zero. So to really understand who is going to survive the final 53 for the Colts this year, we actually have to start our analysis at the very top of the food chain. Because make no mistake, the massive amount of money spent at the top dictates the ultimate fate of the men fighting for scraps at the bottom.
$88 million. Let that number just wash over you for a second. This offseason, the Indianapolis Colts looked at their hand, pushed absolutely all of their chips right to the center of the table, and made a massive, franchise-altering financial bet on Daniel Jones to be their guy under center. But here is where the cinematic drama of this front office decision truly lies. They handed him this astronomical, bank-breaking extension despite the fact that he suffered a devastating Achilles injury in a tough loss to the Jaguars. An Achilles tear isn't just a bump or a bruise. It fundamentally alters a football player's mechanics. It changes their pocket mobility and messes with their mental confidence when planting and throwing. Yet the Colts brass has essentially tied their legacy, their front office jobs, and the entire fate of the 2026 season to the surgical repair of his ankle. And because of this massive $88 million financial commitment, Daniel Jones is completely bulletproof when it comes to roster cuts. He is the franchise. The organization has to protect its investment at all costs. But here's the ripple effect. That immense financial gravity pulls down on absolutely everyone else in the quarterback room. It literally squeezes the available oxygen out of the lower depths of the depth chart, leaving the guys at the bottom gasping for air.
Let's break down exactly what that hierarchy looks like, because it is fascinating. Right up at the top, you have your $88 million man, Daniel Jones. His spot is locked in a vault. Right behind him, you have Anthony Richardson. Now, we all know Richardson's career trajectory has been heavily sidetracked by incredibly frustrating injuries and some inconsistent play on the field. But his raw draft pedigree as a former high first-round pick, combined with his guaranteed cap hit, means the Colts literally cannot afford to cut him. The dead money would be disastrous. So that's two spots locked up tight. Then you have Riley Leonard. He's the young gun who really flashed some immense upside late in the 2025 season. I mean, throwing for 270 yards against an absolutely elite lockdown Texans defense, that turns heads in the scouting department. The organization is heavily invested in his long-term potential. They aren't letting him walk out the door. That's spot number 3. And then, trapped at the very bottom of this depth chart, completely buried beneath the crushing weight of massive contracts, high draft capital, and raw organizational potential, is Easton Stick. Easton Stick is walking into camp in a nearly impossible position. He's QB4. He is fighting desperately every single grueling day in the sweltering heat just for a practice squad lifeline. Realistically, in the eyes of the coaches right now, he's just an extra arm for camp drills to keep the starters fresh. The only way he ever sees the actual 53-man roster is if a catastrophic, unthinkable injury strikes the 3 men standing above him. It is a lonely, agonizing existence in that locker room, knowing your absolute best-case scenario is just surviving on the practice squad.
But listen, the brutal, unforgiving reality of this numbers game isn't just confined to the guys throwing the football. It is tearing like a tornado through the wide receiver room as well. The front office orchestrated a massive, landscape-altering offseason shakeup. First came the shockwave. They actually traded Michael Pittman Jr. to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now initially, if you're a bubble receiver, you'd think, okay, awesome, that opens up a starting spot, right? But the front office immediately went into absolute overdrive to fill that void. They didn't just sit on their hands. First, they brought in proven, battle-tested veteran Nick Westbrook-Ikhine on a solid 2-year deal. Then, they turned right around and spent valuable draft capital on Dion Burks. When you take those new, hand-picked faces and add them to the established guys already sitting in the room, guys like Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, and Ashton Dulin, the roster math suddenly turns deadly for the guys fighting at the bottom. This specific sequence of front office transactions has essentially pushed Anthony Gould directly onto the chopping block. The music is fading, the musical chairs have stopped, and Gould is standing there staring at a roster with absolutely no seats left. He has to play a practically perfect month of August football just to force the front office into a difficult, uncomfortable conversation. That is immense pressure.
Now, let's shift our focus to the defensive side of the ball. And we have to pause here to talk about the massive, gaping void left by Zaire Franklin. We aren't just talking about a rotational player quietly leaving in free agency. We are talking about the absolute heart, the soul, and the undeniable engine of this Indianapolis defense. Zaire Franklin literally holds the franchise record for tackles in a single season. Let that sink in. Think about the linebackers who have worn that uniform, and he holds the record. He was a multi-year team captain. When things got tough, he was the undisputed alpha of the locker room who kept everyone in line. When you willingly remove a foundational pillar of that magnitude from your defense, the entire structural integrity of your team is at risk of completely collapsing. The sheer, terrifying size of the hole left right in the middle of the field, it cannot be overstated. It changes the entire identity, the entire swagger of the football team.
So you have to ask yourself, why do it? Why rip the beating heart right out of your defense? Well, ESPN's Ben Solak captured the brutal, investigative reality of modern NFL roster management perfectly with this quote. He noted that the Colts traded a multi-year captain to get younger, cheaper, and better in coverage. And there it is. That is the cold, incredibly calculated, and often highly controversial strategy of an NFL front office operating in the salary cap era. Loyalty, leadership, locker room presence, all of that takes a backseat to salary cap flexibility and modern analytical defensive philosophy. They looked at a true franchise icon, ran the numbers, and decided that his age and his hefty cap numbers simply didn't align with their championship timeline anymore. It is a ruthless, cutthroat business maneuver, and frankly, it sends a chilling, undeniable message to every single other player lacing up their cleats in that locker room. Absolutely no one is safe. And even more importantly, it places a mountainous, suffocating expectation on the player they drafted to replace him. Because of that move, the Indianapolis Colts are now taking an incredible, almost dizzying gamble on defense. Look at this comparison. On one side of the scale, you have the ghost of Zaire Franklin, a highly proven veteran, an absolute tackling machine, a revered captain who knew every single minute nuanced trick and tendency of the NFL game. And on the other side, you have C.J. Allen, a 21-year-old rookie. He's the number 53 overall pick out of the University of Georgia. Now, yes, let's be fair. Allen was a spectacular All-American. Yes, he was the roaring engine of Kirby Smart's elite NFL factory college defense down in Athens. But guys, the National Football League is a completely different universe. The speed, the complex schemes, the size of the offensive linemen, it's a different game entirely. The Colts are looking at a 21-year-old kid and expecting him to instantly, seamlessly replace a bona fide defensive icon. They're literally betting their entire defensive stability on the hope that this second-round pick won't completely buckle under the blinding, intense spotlight of professional football.
But here's the craziest part. The physical transition from playing college ball to taking on pro linemen isn't even the hardest part of the job. Check out the rest of this thought from Solak's analysis. He points out, Anarumo's defense tends to be complex, and Allen won't have the benefit of an established veteran to run beside. This right here takes the already massive stakes and ramps them up to an almost unfair, unbelievable level. Defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo is widely known around the league for deploying a defensive scheme that requires high-level instant mental processing. We're talking about crazy simulated pressures, constantly disguised coverages, frantic checks at the line of scrimmage based on a tight end shifting or a running back motioning out of the backfield. Normally, when a rookie linebacker comes into the league, he gets to play alongside a grizzled, 10-year veteran. That veteran can tap him on the hip pre-snap, point to a shifting tight end, and make sure the rookie is aligned correctly before the ball is snapped.
CJ Allen does not have that veteran safety net. He is flying completely without a wire. He has to master a notoriously complicated scheme on the fly, all while grown men, who have been playing in this league for a decade, try to actively trick him and exploit his youth on every single snap.
Which brings us to arguably one of the most fascinating, high-stakes details of this entire training camp situation, the green dot. For those who might not know the intricate behind-the-scenes mechanics of how an NFL defense operates, the green dot is the designated player on the field who wears a specialized helmet equipped with a radio receiver. He is the one single direct line of communication from the defensive coordinator standing on the sideline or sitting up in the booth to the 11 men sweating on the field. This player hears the complex play call in his ear, steps into the huddle, confidently relays a paragraph of complex football terminology, and then has to physically get everyone lined up correctly before the play clock expires. Placing this massive, mentally exhausting burden, the green dot, on a 21-year-old rookie's shoulders from day one is practically unheard of in the National Football League. It means the Colts aren't just asking CJ Allen to physically replace the tackles of Zaire Franklin, they are asking him to mentally pilot the entire defensive unit before he has even played a single meaningful regular season snap.
Yet despite this immense, crushing pressure cooker of a situation, there is actually a glimmer of incredible potential coming out of the facility. Take a look at this quote from head coach Shane Steichen when asked about Allen's early minicamp performance. He said, "That communication at that spot is critical. Have been pleased with where he's at right now." Honestly, this is huge news for Colts fans. Steichen is confirming that Allen is not just barely surviving the mental gymnastics of the playbook, he is currently taking snaps almost exclusively with the first-team defense. He is out there dealing with frantic pre-snap motions, making the right checks, and somehow keeping the veteran unit on the exact same page. This baptism by fire is at least currently working out. But, and this is a massive but, we all know that playing minicamp in shorts and t-shirts is a very, very different beast than the grueling, padded, violent reality of late August training camp. The true test of his ability to process complex information while a 320-pound all-pro guard is pulling directly at his face shield is yet to come.
Which brings us to our final lingering thought for this explainer, the million-dollar question. When the axe inevitably falls at the end of the month, will the rookie green dot and the desperate bubble veterans survive? August is looming. The front office has drawn their distinct lines in the sand. Easton Stick is agonizingly battling the cold, hard math of a crowded quarterback room. Anthony Gould is suffocating under the weight of a massive off-season receiver overhaul. And 21-year-old CJ Allen is carrying a legendary franchise icon's legacy inside a helmet with a tiny green sticker. The 53-man cutdown is a brutal, unforgiving machine that cares absolutely nothing about past accomplishments or future dreams. Who will crack under the immense pressure, and who will be standing proudly on the sideline when the lights come on in September? The clock is ticking down right now. Keep your eyes locked on this roster, because it is going to be a wild ride. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. If you enjoyed the breakdown, remember to hit that subscribe button for NFL Nexus, drop a like, and let us know in the comments. Who do you think is going to be the biggest surprise cut this year? Until next time, keep your head on a swivel.